name is 𝙤𝙖𝙣𝙙𝙞𝙙𝙀, and I serve as the Vice President of the League of Women Voters of Johnson County. I'm sitting in for Michael Popa this evening, and it's my pleasure to be with you tonight. We thank you for joining this important candidate forum co-presented by Mainstream Coalition, the League of Women Voters of Johnson County, Advocacy and Awareness Group of Johnson County, Climate Action KC, Mid-America LGBT Chamber, and Northeast Johnson County Chamber. Tonight we'll hear from 4 candidates running for the Johnson County WaterOne Board. An invitation to participate was extended to all candidates on the November 2nd ballot running for this office. For your convenience, we are offering closed caption through a third-party service. If you do not see the captions, please click the CC button at the bottom of the Zoom window and choose Show Captions. A link to the full forum guidelines will be placed in chat, but let's review a few housekeeping items before we begin. It's important to note that this is an educational, nonpartisan event for a general public, not a debate. Candidates are allotted 2 minutes each to answer the questions. A countdown of time remaining for each candidate will appear in the chat box at 1 minute and 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and at time. Lindsay, our moderator, will also give a hand signal for the candidates. If a candidate continues to speak after time, Lindsay, our moderator, and a science teacher with excellent classroom management skills will politely interject and move on to the next candidate. If time allows at the end, we will be taking your questions. Please use the Q&A feature to submit your questions during the forum. Unfortunately for us all, odd-year elections often go unnoticed, and voter turnout can be as dismal as 10%. Water quality and quantity impacts every Kansan. We urge you, don't give up the power of your vote. Please show up at the polls on or before November 2nd and bring a friend or two with you. The partner organizations co-sponsoring this forum believe that democracy works best when citizens are informed and active. We trust that this forum provides you the opportunity to learn more about your WaterOne Board candidates and make an informed decision when filling out your ballot. And now, I'd like to introduce and welcome our moderator, Lindsay Constance, co-founder and president of Climate Action KC. Take it from here, Lindsay.
All right, thank you so much, Janet, and thank you to the candidates who joined us this evening. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. To start us off, our first question is, what kind of qualifications do you believe are needed to serve on the WaterOne Board, and what makes you a strong candidate for this position? For the first question, we're going to go in alphabetical order by last name. So we'll first start with 𝙘𝙖𝙣𝙙𝙞𝙀𝙀. Joanne, you're on mute.
There, am I back?
You're good.
Thank you so much. And I was saying thank you for this invitation to participate in this forum. As a consumer, a voter, and now as a candidate, my prime consideration is that of informed consent. So thank you sincerely for your work to bring information to the voters so that they can make that informed choice. A couple of terms. Cognitive dissonance is the psychological conflict resulting from incongruous beliefs and attitudes held simultaneously. In other words, it can be difficult, even painful, to receive information which contradicts what we already believe to be true. Much of what I will present in my answers and remarks may create dissonance. If you feel that dissonance with new information, please ask yourself to be open enough to consider new information without simply dismissing it. I believe that WaterOne as an organization is committed to excellence, That's why I'm presenting this information, because when you know better, you do better. The other term that I wanted to define is informed consent, which I already mentioned. It is the process of weighing the potential benefits and risks of any decision, especially of a drug or treatment, before beginning said drug or treatment. The 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution protects the rights of individuals to bodily autonomy. It has been well established and upheld by the Supreme Court that no one shall be drugged against their consent. My primary motivation for running for the Board of WaterOne is to support and defend the rights of all people to informed consent. Currently, a drug is being added to the public water supply. It has been portrayed as being beneficial, but most people are completely unaware of the risks and harms. Fluoride is recognized by the FDA as an unapproved drug. It goes against every principle of informed consent to put any drug into the public water supply.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thank you.
All right, next, or the same question, we'll go to 𝙘𝙖𝙣𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤. What kind of qualifications do you believe are needed to serve on the WaterOne board, and what makes you a strong candidate for this position?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is 𝙘𝙖𝙤𝙤𝙤𝙤. I am the public health nurse running for my second term on the WaterOne board because our drinking water is too precious to take for granted. I want to thank the 6 organizations for sponsoring this first ever candidate forum for WaterOne. And I want to thank those who are watching virtually. Thank you for caring about our water. As for qualifications, I am a registered nurse. I graduated from Yale University. I have my BSN and my master's from KU. I was elected as the first healthcare professional on the board. I think it's been a wonderful use of my 35 years of public health nursing. Our 7-member board sets rates, oversees a $125 million budget, and over $1 billion in infrastructure. So I would say that my experience is really important. I have learned so much these past 4 years about water quality, infrastructure, finance, cybersecurity, how Kansas manages its water. And I also think I have a passion for water. I love the Kansas and Missouri rivers, which are our water sources, and I try to get near them anytime I can. And I also think that I am curious. I'm a scientist. I ask questions. I do research. I read a lot. For 4 years, I've taken every opportunity to read the entire 200+ page budget, the monthly 100+ page board packets. I attend almost every committee meeting. I've missed 1 board meeting. I've taken every opportunity to tour facilities, watch pipe condition assessments, attend as many water conferences, webinars, public hearings so that I can learn more. I'm currently vice chair of the board and on the finance and government and community relations committees. During my first term, I've been an advocate for public health. I value the scientific rigor that supports water quality, as well as the masks and vaccines to help us end this pandemic. I support the 76 years of peer-reviewed, credibly conducted scientific studies that find optimally fluoridating our water to be safe for all.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you, Kay. We're going to now invite Jeffrey Mendoza to answer the same question about qualifications you believe are needed and what qualifications make you a strong candidate.
Absolutely.
Jeffrey.
First of all, thank you so much for having me and hosting this forum. This is extremely important for our voters to potentially learn a little bit more about their candidates for this very important board. As I've gone out and met with the residents of the water district, knocked on their doors and made phone calls, I've learned that a lot of individuals don't even know that the water board has an elected portion of their body. And the elected board for WaterOne is a policy board. It's a board that determines long-term functions of the water utility company. So when we're talking about this long-term goals and long-term policy, when we discuss what are the qualifications needed, you're going to need somebody who can work as a team, because it's a 7-person board. You're going to need somebody who's invested in the community and wants to see it thrive. And you're going to need somebody who has experience in dealing with policy and the bureaucracies of policies coming down from state and federal government in order to establish a policy that are going to govern the board and the water utility company here locally in Johnson County. And I have all of those skills. I'm a United States Marine officer. I just finished my active duty service last year. I'm a lawyer. Currently a prosecutor in Kansas City, Missouri. Before that, I was serving as a lawyer in the United States Marine Corps, where I advised base generals on policies for the installation. I prosecuted crimes under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. And I'm a brand new father. I chose to live here in Johnson County. My wife and I decided that this is where we wanted to live. This is where we wanted to raise our children. And we just had a son in May, and I want to see him prosper in this county, and I want to see him enjoy clean water for his entire lifetime. So I know I have those skills that can best serve this water utility company. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. All right, Jill Westra, go ahead and please answer the question about necessary qualifications and what makes you a strong candidate. Thank you.
Sure. I'll just start out by echoing everybody else's sentiment that this is a very valuable forum to have, and thank you very much to all the hosts and sponsors for having us tonight. I was really concerned about the WaterOne race not getting the attention that I feel it deserves, and this is one way that it is actually getting some attention, so thank you very much. As far as what qualifications I feel are necessary to be on the WaterOne board, I believe a good wide spectrum is what is necessary. Clearly, it's not helping anyone if there are 9 Jills on the board. I mean, a wide variety of expertise, of experience, of passions, of capabilities, I think will really be important to make sure that we face all the issues from a holistic perspective. And, you know, I would absolutely encourage folks to run for this kind of board if they have a new or special or a different talent or expertise to offer. As for what makes me excited to run for this board, I'm an environmental scientist. I studied environmental science from day one in university. I have a bachelor's of science in earth science and 2 masters, one in environment and society, and the other in occupational and environmental health and safety management. I have a 20-year career in the environmental science field, both as a consultant for consulting engineers that primarily work on water infrastructure projects and other infrastructure projects, from electrical utilities to roads and mining and minerals. And I feel like I have the professional skill set that makes me extremely useful for a board such as this. But not only that, I have the personal passion, enthusiasm about water stewardship and environmental compliance. So that'll wrap me up for my qualifications. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Jill. We are going to go on to the next question, and this time we will start with 𝙘𝙖𝙣𝙤𝙀. The question is, if elected to the WaterOne board, what measures would you support to address the climate crisis and to make our Johnson County communities more resilient? Okay.
That is an excellent question. I'm a member of Climate Action KC, and I would say that climate change is one of the biggest issues facing the WaterOne board. I mean, our WaterOne, it both from impacting our source water as well as impacting our financial bottom line. Addressing climate change has 2 components: climate adaptation, which is making our infrastructure and our daily operations, which, you know, more resilient to what we're going to be facing in terms of higher temperatures, drought, and flooding. That's triggered by the rising greenhouse gas emissions. And then there's also the climate mitigation piece, which is actually working to reduce or sequester the greenhouse gas emissions that we emit. So what I have been working on this past 4 years is working to solidify our board's, or strengthen our board's commitment. We do have a strategic principle. Our 7th strategic goal is being good stewards of the environment. So working towards a renewables direct, well, actually we kind of helped facilitate getting a renewables direct agreement with Evergy, which helps us use more renewable energy. Looking at electrifying our fleet, looking at where we can add perhaps some solar stuff, solar arrays, which we toured the BPU's solar array this afternoon, which was very interesting. WaterOne has done a great job in terms of resilience with climate change. We build things to above the 500-year standard floodplain. We have done quite a bit of stuff with adding more water storage. We have 2 treatment plants. We have 2 rivers. So we have a lot of redundancy. And I think where we can work further is towards our sequestering and reducing our greenhouse gas. So climate change is very important, and I'm on board with whatever we can do. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kay. Next, Jeffrey, would you please answer the question, if elected to the WaterOne Board, what measures would you support to address the climate crisis and to make our Johnson County communities more resilient?
So number one aspect when thinking of this is, first of all, accepting that climate change is real and that it's affecting our water sources. We source water here in this area from both the Kansas River and the Missouri River, right? And we know that those areas are receding, right? We know that the Missouri River has been drier now than it's ever been before. So in my perspective is first identifying that we have an issue here and how are we going to address it? How are we going to solve it? So like, as I previously said, the WaterOne Board deals with that long-term perspective, that long-term view of how are we going to anticipate these problems and fix them. And Kay pointed out some great points because she's been there. She's been on the board for the last 4 years and she's been working towards making sure that the board continues to successfully have that positive outlook and be prepared for further degradation of our rivers. So I am somebody who acknowledges that climate change is real, that climate change is a problem that's causing our rivers to recede, and that is an aspect that's going to continue to be a problem moving forward, and that we need to seriously focus on so that we never have a period of time where we don't have a source of clean of water that we can then clean and distribute to the residents of Johnson County, of the water district, to ensure that they're continuing to have that clean water for all the children of Johnson County for their entire lifetime.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Jill, go ahead and answer the question about the climate crisis and how we can be more resilient.
Okay. Well, as I've already mentioned, I am an environmental scientist and I've been working in the environmental field for my entire career. So I don't think it's going to surprise anybody to hear me say, I think this is a critical issue that we need to be focusing on. So I will leave that there. What I will say is that I'm a data-oriented person. I do believe that good data gives us a good indicator of what we should do and how we can manage to do things to mitigate negative impacts like climate crisis. I do feel like the first step is my role as a member on the board would be to make sure we harness that good data that's going to indicate to us what we can do, what we need to do, how fast we need to do it. Once those numbers are harnessed, then we can begin to set goals and targets that mean something, that are unique to our specific water utility in the specific geographical location. You know, we all have feelings and we're all passionate about the issue politically and emotionally. However, what can WaterOne as an entity, as an organization do? That's going to be shown to us by how severely and how quickly we need to act. And in order to find that out, we need to figure out what are our carbon emissions, or what are our greenhouse gas emissions looking like? You know, what are the options out there to reduce those? That's all very unique and specific to what goes on here in our jurisdiction at this particular place and time. So my first push would be to make sure that we have the right data coming in, making the right calculations, and then making our decisions according to the science and the math.
All right, thank you very much, Jill. Joanne, please answer the same question.
One of the big considerations that I have about moving forward in regard to climate is how can we better use the resources that we currently have? And one of the things that I've been very happy to see changing in the Kansas City area recently is a move from grass lawns to a more sustainable environment with permaculture grasses, xeriscaping, and so forth, so that we're not pouring our precious water onto grass lawns. I live next to a 5-acre lake, and so it's a reminder to me every day of how important it is for us to hold on to those resources and to protect them. And it may seem off topic, but this is my primary motivation in speaking this evening, so I will readdress the issue of fluoride. Fluoride has been added to our water in the United States since just after World War II, and I believe it does add to our environmental issues in adding fluoride to the water table. Fluoride was added by a public referendum in 1967 with the mistaken belief that it is a water treatment It is not. Fluoride does not treat the water. It treats the person who drinks the water. No one may vote to drug someone else. Therefore, the statute is invalid. I'm working with state legislators to overturn that statute. In the meantime, it is my mission to inform as many people as possible of the risks and harms associated with ingesting fluoride so that they may make
30
an
seconds.
informed choice in regards to drinking fluoridated water. References to much of my information may be found at the Fluoride Action Network website at www.fluoridealert.org.
All right, thank you, Joanne. We are going to move on to our next question, and this time we'll start with Jeffrey Mendoza. On this question, please talk about, we're going to talk about health and safety. So water infrastructure is crucial to the health and safety of residents based on the number of significant weather events seen in America in the last year. What are your thoughts on reinvesting in quality infrastructure?
Infrastructure is how we get the clean water that source that is clean to the residents. Without infrastructure, we have a pointless system. There's no need to clean water if we can't properly get it to the consumer, right? And here, the paying consumer, people are paying good money and they're expecting to receive good, clean water. And it's incumbent upon the members of the WaterOne Board to take that responsibility seriously. As I previously said, in my past duties as a Marine officer and legal advisor to the Installation General for Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune, I participated in advising the General on establishing policy for the installation, an installation that cleaned its own water, that controlled its own wastewater, that controlled its own landfills, that controlled its own entry points onto the installation. What it comes down to is an understanding of the community and having the desires to see the community prosper, the community grow. So as a WaterOne Board member, it's very important, and I feel an obligation and a duty to do something about it, right? When I decided to run for this position, it's because I am raising my son in this community, and I don't want something like what happened in Flint, Michigan, or Newark, New Jersey to affect my son or his potential classmates or any of the children here in Johnson County. I want to make sure that they continue to have clean water for their whole lifetime. And I'm going to take that responsibility seriously. And that's what's going to guide every decision I make on that board, making sure that the good paying customers are ingesting clean water at a cheaper rate than it is to go out and buy, let's say, a bottle of water, and that they know it's going to be safe for their families to drink.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Jill. Water infrastructure is crucial to the health and safety of residents based on the number of significant weather events seen in America in the last year. What are your thoughts on reinvesting in quality infrastructure?
Thanks for that question. So what I'd like to start out with saying is that I am aware that WaterOne water at this point and infrastructure that we have is top of the line. We have the best management practices in place that give us already award-winning quality water. As far as the integrity of infrastructure goes, we have phenomenal infrastructure comparatively to other urban areas. We don't have high lead and copper exceedances like some urban areas do. We're lucky that planning was already in place, and phenomenal initiatives have been put into place to make sure that we do have a top-notch water utility already. That being said, we can't be complacent. And as a sustainability professional, I'm super dedicated to making sure that we don't rest on our laurels. And again, as I mentioned before in the climate change questions, I see this as a reality. I know that the extreme weather patterns are coming our way. I know that potential for new drought trends are coming our way. And yes, this absolutely could impact our infrastructure. We need to be worried about things like how our infrastructure could hold up in the event that we start to have more severe weather patterns, or as we saw with Texas last year over the winter, where the entire utility had to be shut down because of the nature of the severe weather that they experienced there. So I do believe in reinvesting and making sure we're future-proofing our infrastructure. It's already great, but I don't want to become complacent. And so yes, I believe that risk management needs to address the potential for the fact that these could be negatively impacted in the future.
Thank you very much, Jill. Joanne, same question.
As a 20+ year resident of Johnson County and WaterOne customer, I have been impressed with WaterOne's commitment to excellence for over 2 decades. And it is clear that the infrastructure has been top priority, and I see that going forward. Sorry if it feels like I'm being rude to move away from the question again, but this is my priority. To make an informed choice, you must know both the benefits and risks of any choice you make. Any dental benefits of fluoride are from topical application only. The most benefit is derived from the application to the permanent teeth just after they erupt. There is disagreement as to whether and how much benefit is derived from continued topical application into adulthood. Fluoride is not meant to be ingested. Look at any tube of fluoride toothpaste. It will clearly say harmful if swallowed. Harms of fluoride are well understood to be dose dependent. By adding a drug to the water supply, there is no way to control the dose. Even if the water district keeps tight controls within the limits outlined, differences in the amount of water consumed, age, kidney function, and overall health present vastly differing tolerances. Because fluoride accumulates in the body over time, there is truly no safe dose. The greatest risk is the known neurotoxicity of fluoride, especially to the brain of the developing fetus and to infants to 6 months of age. It is believed that fluoride poses the same degree of risk to brain development as does lead. Pregnant women and new moms must be made aware of the dangers so that they may choose for themselves whether to use fluoridated water.
Thank you, Joanne. And Kay, go ahead and answer this question for us, please. You are on mute.
Thank you. I just want to restate my statement that I support the 76 years of peer-reviewed, credibly conducted scientific studies that find optimally fluoridating our drinking water to be safe for all and effective in reducing tooth decay in adults and children, regardless of their access to dental care. And now I'll move on to the question, which is reinvesting in quality infrastructure. WaterOne has an amazing 40-year master plan. We are a AAA bond-rated utility, which allows us to borrow money as we plan in the future for infrastructure. You know, looking again at the main adverse climate events that we're going to face, which are the high temperatures, the drought, and the flooding, WaterOne has been very proactive. We have 2,800 miles of pipe. We have 2 treatment plants. We have intakes on 2 rivers. We have a collector well. We have other wells. We just added 12 million gallons of storage in the last 2 years. And we also maintain, which many people don't know, 18,500 fire hydrants and provide all the water for firefighting, which many in the community don't realize where that comes from. So we also have invested over the last 10 years and this past December completed the project, the ozone project at the Hansen treatment plant. Ozone removes things that chlorine does not address, like pharmaceuticals, endocrine disruption compounds. The process takes fewer chemicals. So ozone, from my nurse perspective, we had good water, but with ozone, our water is even safer and healthier for people. The AWIA Act, American Water Infrastructure Act, that was passed in 2018, requires utilities serving more than 3,300 people to have an emergency response plan. WaterOne has a vigorous, robust emergency response plan to multiple adverse climate events. We also have 2 natural gas generators at our Walcott plant, which can back up electricity. And we just at our board meeting this past Tuesday heard the presentation about 2 additional natural gas generators that will be in forthcoming, so that we can also protect against some of those electricity events like in Houston.
Thank you very much, Kay. All right, we're going to move on to our next question. And I don't know about you guys, but all this conversation about water makes me very thirsty. And I'm about done with my glass of ice water. And there goes others. Okay, next question. And this time we will start with Jill. WaterOne customers have shutoffs when they are unable to cover their bill. What process should remain in place to handle this situation? And what additional measures should be taken? Jill?
All right. First of all, I don't believe that water shutoffs for inability to pay your bill should ever be an issue. I believe that water is a basic human right. Access to clean, potable water for drinking is a basic human right. And especially in this day and age, when you live in the Midwest of a first world country, I absolutely believe that everybody should have access to it. So that being said, I believe that every effort should be made by the utility to make sure that we don't put people into that situation where they would have that risk. How do we do that? We do make sure that we have affordable rates. We make sure that we have a smoothing technique that ensures no price spikes in terms of how much people are expected to pay for their water. I'm very, very passionate about environmental justice, and I want to make sure that when we set our rates, we make sure that we're doing it through the lens of what is affordable, what is considered affordable in our community. And in order to do that, I believe that we need to look at the lowest 20th percentile of what people are earning in this particular area and make sure that we're calibrating according to that. So the bottom line for me is that there should not be an issue with our residents and folks that are availing of our water utility to ever have to choose between feeding their kids and paying their water bill. Full stop. That's the bottom line right there.
Thank you very much, Jill. And Joanne, same question for you. WaterOne customers have shutoffs when they are unable to cover their bill. What process should remain in place to handle this situation, and what additional measures should be taken? Joanne? Joanne, you're on mute.
So sorry, am I back?
You're good.
Thank you so much. I would just like to echo Jill's sentiment, and I'm sure we can all agree that access to clean, potable water is a basic human right. And I know that there are processes in place, that there is a charity that I believe is supported by WaterOne to support just this very issue currently in place. I also believe that low-income customers are at most risk of issues from fluoride because they don't have any choice but to drink tap water often. To remove fluoride from water requires rather expensive reverse osmosis filtration, which is beyond the reach of most people or most low-income people. Fluoride is absorbed by bones, teeth, joints, not just teeth, but also by bones and joints. It also has been shown to increase incidence of osteosarcomas and osteoarthritis. Excuse me, fluoride concentrations of 1 milligram per liter of urine are associated with a 27% increase in the risk of osteoarthritis in adults, according to a report in the journal Biological Trace Elements Research just 2 weeks ago. Thyroid gland dysfunction is also a big consideration with fluoride because fluoride blocks iodine, which
30 seconds.
Thank you. Fluoride blocks iodine, which is required for the thyroid gland to function properly. Depending on which list you look at, synthroid hormone, which is an artificial T4, is either the second or third most prescribed drug in the United States. That is contributed to by fluoride absorption.
Thank you very much. 𝙘𝙖𝙣𝙤𝙤, can you talk to us about shutoffs and what should be done to make sure that people have access to water?
Thank you. A very important question. I'm in agreement that drinking water and water are a basic human right. And I am asking questions often with the utility, particularly during the pandemic, about what was happening with people and the water shutoffs. You know, there was a block of shutting off people's water for a period of time. WaterOne does have a very low percentage compared to other areas, other water utilities, of people that are not able to pay their bills. We do have the lowest rate in the area, which is one thing that our board does, is set our rates. And we do have strong financial department that helps keep the rates at a slow and steady rate, which is more predictable for people then. I also think when we do have someone that has a problem with paying their water, there is a process that they're given quite a bit of, at least a week, maybe 2 weeks to figure out what they can do about their payment bill before their water is shut off. And our customer service department is very good at referring people to the Johnson County Utility Assistance, which is a county utility assistance program that WaterOne does also fund, add some funds to, so that people can get assistance with their utility bills. One thing that I would like to see more of is, I do feel like people who are renters are at a disadvantage because they can't control slow leaky toilet necessarily. They can't control the inefficient appliances. And so I'm wondering if we can figure out some different ways to help give renters some more assistance with repairs and things that need to happen. So water is a right. WaterOne does work with people. Can we probably do better, perhaps? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kay. And Jeffrey, same question for you.
So my mother, before I was ever even born, my mother immigrated to this country and became a naturalized citizen. She immigrated from the Dominican Republic, a place where even today, you cannot turn on the tap and drink that water. So having the luxury of being able to turn on your tap and actually having drinking water is amazing to us, especially when we travel back to the Dominican Republic. And as Kay and Joe mentioned, it's a luxury that's become a right here for us in Johnson County in the United States of America, and one that everyone should be able to enjoy, especially in the richest county in the state of Kansas. So to know that there are people getting their water shut off is mind-blowing and shouldn't be happening. And as a member of the WaterOne Board, I'd be fighting every single day to make sure that that doesn't happen. I've had an opportunity to visit the water utility company offices, very nice boardrooms. I've had an opportunity to sit down with the general manager for the water utility company, and I've talked to him, and I've learned that there is a separate fund of money aside from what the consumers are paying for their water bill, that they utilize that money and they contribute to certain charities in the area, and those charities assist individuals who may be struggling to pay their bills. There's no reason why we can't increase those contributions. If that money is just sitting around, there's no reason why we can't increase those contributions and assist those individuals who are most in need here in our county to make sure that they have that ability to open their tap and drink the clean and safe water that comes out of their tap. And that's way cheaper and more cost effective than going out and purchasing water bottles, which negatively affect our environment. So that's how I would affect this issue.
All right, thank you so much, Jeffrey. This time we are going to go through starting at the bottom of the alphabet and working our way up to mix it up. And I'm going to throw a two-part question at you all. To start out there, if you are elected to the board, would you vote to adopt the recently released Regional Climate Action Plan? That was a collaboration between Climate Action KC and the Mid-America Regional Council. So first, would you vote to adopt that regional plan? And secondly, the greenhouse gas emissions inventory found that 63% of emissions come from buildings and energy. So should WaterOne work towards improving efficiency and decreasing emissions? And if so, what solutions? So first part on the climate action plan, second part on efficiency and reducing emissions. Jill, can we start with you?
Sure. Normally the W does me a favor. Right now it's not. So yes, vote yes on the climate action plan. I won't go on and on about that. Here's the thing. We need to accept the fact and we need to put the message out there that WaterOne does pay attention to these things, that we are planning for them, and that we do support initiatives in our local communities to address the climate crisis. The Climate Action Plan, no brainer for me, absolutely. And I would love to put that as a public facing initiative for WaterOne, so that our community can see us taking some initiative. As far as reducing emissions goes, as a sustainability practitioner, you know, I realize that every industry has an impact on the climate. Every industry has a carbon footprint. Every industry has some form of greenhouse gas emissions. And yes, maybe water utilities are not the #1 emitter of emissions, but we can still do better. While we are proving that we should do better, I feel like we should do it correctly. We should do it right. We should look at our emission sources. How would we do that? We would look at how much fuels we consume in our fleet, how much fuels we consume for any of the mechanical equipment that we use in the actual process of treating water. We should also look at how we light our buildings. You know, we should also look at the energy that we draw from the local power utility. All those factor into our overall carbon footprint. If we don't have that information, we don't know where we're at and what our baseline is, we can't plan to improve. So yes, I believe that we need to pay attention to this. We need to drive improvement, and we need to show our community that we are walking the walk. When we say that we are a sustainable and environmentally conscious utility, let's show it.
Thank you very much, Jill. Jeffrey, I'm going to repeat the question because I know I threw kind of a long one at you. First one, if elected to the board, would you vote to adopt the recently released Regional Climate Action Plan? And secondly, knowing that buildings and energy account for 63% of emissions, should WaterOne work towards improving efficiency and decreasing emissions? And if so, what solutions do you think they should take on?
Absolutely. So first of all, it's I hope, and if you haven't, please Google it, learn about the climate action plan, the regional climate action plan that we're addressing here today. It's extremely important for this area, for this region. Absolutely, we should implement this plan, right? We're reducing emissions. We were talking about this earlier, right? This is going to be a circular problem. Climate change is an issue that degrades our rivers, makes our rivers recedes, reduces the amount of water that we can retrieve from there, that we then clean and get out to the consumers. So if we are not reducing our emissions, if we're not adopting this climate action plan, then we're negatively impacting the way the climate is changing, thereby reducing the resources we have available to properly distribute clean drinking water to the residents of the water district, which as a water utility company, as WaterOne, is our main priority, right? Would be my main priority as a member of the WaterOne board, making sure that consumers are receiving this clean drinking water. And then in terms of how the water, so as the water board, we establish policy for what's going to happen with the water utility company, right? A company that has 400 employees, we would be hiring the general manager, right? He answers directly to us, and he deals with day-to-day operations for those 400 employees. So it's imperative that as the board, my vote would be to decreasing emissions that the water utility company is putting out into the environment, thereby degrading our resources in the environment. And we can do that simple, right? Maybe installing sensors for light switches in different office buildings so that the lights go off when there's nobody in the room, to greater scale issues like not driving gas guzzling vehicles and kind of reducing the amount of gas that our carbon footprint in this environment. So
thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thank you. All right, Kay, do you need me to repeat the question, or are you ready to roll?
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Very important question. And I am a member of Climate Action KC, and I would very much support and have been working to see about our board approving the climate action plan, the regional climate action plan. One thing to note is that our regional climate action plan does not specifically address water utilities. And there are water utilities in the country that have their own climate action plans that are specific to water utilities, including both climate adaptation and climate mitigation strategies. So as a board member, Yes, I want to say yes to the climate action plan, the regional climate action plan, because its goal is a net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Secondly, I do feel and have been urging WaterOne to start tracking our greenhouse gas emissions. And once we are tracking them, the data that Jill had mentioned earlier, then we can start actually setting strategies that we can reduce or sequester those emissions. We are looking at remodeling a building, and we're looking at some LEED certification for that. Envision is another program that's specifically addressing climate situations with infrastructure. And then electrifying our fleet is another thing, another strategy that we could use. Like I mentioned before, we have the energy agreement with Evergy, but both of our treatment plants are in BPU, so are powered by BPU. So working with BPU to come up with some sort of agreement as well with them. Purchasing, maintaining, and managing energy efficient pumps. Pumping is the biggest energy user of water utilities, and as well as blowers. Converting our fleet, as I mentioned, LEED and Envision certification, incorporating green procurement and operations practices, looking at how we can landscape with more water efficient, energy efficient things would also be helpful. So a lot of strategies that I want WaterOne to adapt. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kay. And Joanne, do you need me to repeat the question, or are you good to go?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
I would just like to echo my fellow candidates have all offered some very comprehensive ideas. So I would just like to say, yes, it goes without saying that it is incumbent upon each and every one of us to be excellent stewards of the resources that we have. And I'll leave it there.
Okay. Thank you very much, Joanne. We are going to go on to the next question. Here's a science question coming at you. Harmful algae blooms are increasing in Kansas. What is the proper balance between agricultural needs and protecting water quality and wildlife habitat? And this time we are going to start with Jeffrey.
So we need both, right? We need to make sure we're having clean water, but we also need food. So how do you make that balance? Well, as Water Utility Board, we are focused on making sure people are getting clean drinking water. But in doing so, we are not going to, I wouldn't have blind spots or blinders on that negatively affects the rest of the environment, which is where we source this water. Like I've said, I guess for a couple of questions now, all of this is pretty circular, right? If we're not taking care of our environment and the pieces around us, then we're not going to have a source to collect this water that we then clean, that we then distribute out to our residents of this water district. So it's important that we are good neighbors and that we acknowledge that the actions that we take are not taken in a vacuum. They affect the entire ecosystem here in Johnson County, in Kansas, and in this greater area. But as a WaterOne Board member, my main focus, my main priority is making sure that the residents of the water district are receiving clean and healthy drinking water that they can enjoy now, that their children can enjoy, and that their children will enjoy for their entire lifetime. That's my focus. That's why I'm running for this position, is to make sure that my son, his friends in the future continue to enjoy this clean drinking water. And I believe in science. I'm a lawyer, as I said before. I'm used to reading. I read a lot for my daily job. I read a lot as a professional. And I, as Joe was mentioning earlier, am in favor of receiving as much data points as we can and making informed decisions, because that's the only way we can move forward.
All right, thank you very much, Jeffrey. And I should have mentioned this will be the last question before closing. So 𝙘𝙖𝙣𝙖𝙣𝙙𝙀, same question to you about the harmful algae blooms and what the proper balance is between agricultural needs and protecting water quality and wildlife habitats.
Very good question. Harmful algae blooms are with us. And I think one of the most impacts of harmful algae blooms on WaterOne is in the Milford Lake Reservoir, which is a federal storage facility upstream on the Kansas River. What causes harmful algae blooms is phosphorus. Phosphorus is a runoff product of fertilizer. And so what WaterOne was instrumental in doing is getting a federal grant of $2.8 million to form the Milford Lake RCPP project. That's the Regional Conservation Partnership Program. WaterOne helped gather the stakeholders and, most importantly, the producers. And these people are farmers that have agreed to learn about best practices and apply best practices to their farming to decrease the amount of phosphorus that's running off into the reservoir. And I think as this is the first one in Kansas, and as this first project, and as we get the results, hopefully there'll be other producers that will also, want to weigh in. My brother-in-law is a farmer. He is probably one of the most environmentally concerned people I know. So producers care about the soil. They want the soil to be healthy. So it's just a question of helping them figure out what the best practices are, maybe help fund it initially so that we can get it on the way, get it going. But harmful algae blooms are a solvable problem if we can get everybody together to work on it. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And Joanne.
Okay, I thought I was muted. Sorry, thank you. I live, as I said, on a small 5-acre lake, and so I'm very aware of the problems caused by algae blooms. We are sort of at the bottom of the entire neighborhood, and even just the fertilizer from folks' lawns, that phosphorus ends up in my lake. So I recognize every year what a huge concern that is, and working with farmers to implement biodynamic farming practices that do not rely on artificial phosphorus fertilizers would be a great start. It is interesting that the fluoride that is added to our water supply is not a naturally occurring molecule. It is the byproduct of fertilizer and aluminum manufacturing pulled from the air pollution scrubbers from those manufacturing processes and then poured into our water supply. So it would be environmentally sound if there is less fertilizer being produced and then less fluoride being added into our water. And I'll leave it there.
Okay, Jill, question for you about algae blooms.
Yep. So first and foremost, I very much understand the problem here, and I've even worked for a plant nutrition company, and I'm very well tuned into how fertilizer runoff works and the risk of having excess nutrients like phosphorus and nitrogen in our water supply. So I won't explain to you how that works, and Kay did a great job of giving a high-level explanation there. But what I do think is most important here is that we commit to being champions of water stewardship as the water utility that we are. And with that being said, we need to acknowledge the fact that, as Jeffrey mentioned earlier, we are in a rich county and we are a top-rate water utility. We have, we have no problem securing funding. We have low rates. So what we should be doing, in my opinion, is putting our money and our resources where our mouth is. And what can we do about water quality in general in terms of water stewardship, not just the water that we're drinking out of our taps? Well, what I would recommend we do is have sustainability initiatives in place, such as collaborations or engagement with local agricultural industries, so that we can help in educating them, working with them, making sure that they are using the right technology to ensure that excess fertilizer and excess nutrients that create algal blooms is not a negative impact. And there are ways to do that. The rate of application at which fertilizer is applied to fields is sometimes excessive. And sometimes it's as simple as spreading the word that there are better ways, better quantities, even better products. And I feel like we should be able to use our resources, of which we have many at WaterOne, in order to open up some of that dialogue with local agriculture.
Thank you so much, Jill. We are now going to move into the closing portion of our forum this evening. Each candidate will have 1 minute for closing remarks, and we're actually going to go back to the top of the alphabet and start with Joanne for her closing.
Again, thank you so much for having us this evening. It is very important to me, and I want to thank you all for your patience and your indulgence as I have been very unifocal. in my in my presentation this evening. There is a lawsuit currently brought by a group of nonprofits against the EPA in regard to the Toxic Substances Control Act. And that lawsuit was heard in summer of 2020 and is being continued twice while additional information has been added.
30 seconds.
It is my constant prayer that when the judge rules, and we're expecting that ruling in January, that practice of water fluoridation will be banned in the United States. And it is my hope that people become educated in the meantime and realize they have other options. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joanne. Kay.
Thank you again to the 6 organizations that sponsored tonight's forum and all that you all do for our community. And thank you to everybody who has listened. Please share what you have learned. Early voting in person begins Saturday, October 23rd at 8 locations throughout the county. You do need to vote to the bottom of the ballot for WaterOne candidates, and it will appear on your ballot as Water District Number 1 of Johnson County. My name is 𝙘𝙖𝙣𝙤𝙤𝙦. I am the public health nurse running for re-election to the WaterOne Board because our water is too precious to take for granted. I hope I've earned your vote on or before November 2nd. My website is 8keeleyforwaterone.com. Thank you for being voters, and please go have a big glass of safe, plentiful, affordable, and delicious WaterOne tap water, and thank all of our essential employees who provide it for us. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much, Kay. All right, Jeffrey.
I'm Jeffrey Mendoza, and I'm one of the candidates for the WaterOne Board seat 4. Again, there's 3 seats up for grabs at this election: seat 3, seat 4, and seat 5. I'm running for seat 4. My opponent, unfortunately, did not choose to be with us here today, but I am so happy that I was here. I'm so happy that you all are here and are getting informed on the policies and what's going on with your community. I decided to move to this community with my wife because this is where I wanted to raise my family. This is where my son was born. This is where my son will be raised. And this is where, this is a community that I want to see continue to thrive. And I want to put my skill set to work in this community as a lawyer, as a Marine veteran, and as a new father. Muchísimas gracias por tenerme aquí hoy y espero que todos voten por mí en el 12 de noviembre. Por favor, visiten mi sitio web, jeffreyforwaterone.com. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you very much. And Jill.
As everybody else has said, thank you again for having me. It's a really great opportunity to be here and be able to talk about these issues, which are very important, notwithstanding the fact that we're at the bottom of the ballot. As I mentioned many times, I'm the environmental scientist running for position number 5, and science and sustainability and environmental stewardship are my passions, but I believe I also have the perspective that would do me good to be on this board, knowing that I've lived and worked in some of the most water-stressed areas on the planet, like the Kalahari Desert in Africa and rural Australia. So I would love to be able to put that professional and personal skill set to use on the board of WaterOne. Thanks again for having us. And my website is jillwestrowaterone.com. I would love to have more people log on and see what else I'm about. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the candidates, and I will pass it back.
Great job, Lindsay. Thank you so much for moderating, and thank you, candidates, for sharing your knowledge and your perspective and your passion for clean water with us. I'd also like to take another moment to recognize the partner organizations who made this forum possible: the League of Women Voters of Johnson County, Mainstream Coalition, Advocacy and Awareness Group of Johnson County, Climate Action, KC, Mid-America LGBT Chamber, and Northeast Johnson County Chamber. The League and Mainstream will be posting a recording of this forum on Facebook and YouTube. Please share them with your network of voters. And a reminder, advance ballots were mailed out yesterday, and early in-person voting will be available at 8 Johnson County locations beginning on Saturday, October 23rd. If you plan to vote from your couch but have not yet requested a mail ballot, the deadline to do so is Tuesday, October 26th. And Election Day is Tuesday, November 2nd. Before you cast your vote, please visit vote411.org. That was vote411.org and ksballot.org to learn more about the candidates on your ballot, find out your early or election day voting location, and make a plan to vote. KS Ballot is also available in Spanish. Thank you for joining us. Remember to vote. And since water is important to everyone on this call, the League of Women Voters invites you to join us for a program on Saturday, November 6th, The Pivotal Role of Water. Go to www.lwvjoco.org, click on events, and join now. We appreciate you all. Thank you for teaching us what we need to know for this election, and good night to all.